What is up? What is up? Grand afternoon. We're on Inside Foxy's Mind. So this is the second live. Hope all goes well. I sent out the smoke signals for everybody, but if you don't get it, you catch the replay. It is a fairly new channel, so I'm not expecting things to pop the way they do on my other channel. But nonetheless, today I wanted to talk about. I saw on somebody else's Instagram that Kyrie Irving, and I know most of us know who that is, Kyrie Irving, the famous basketball player, is in the news again. And, for what I'm understanding about him, because I don't really follow sports, I don't follow, entertainment as much at all as I used to, unless I'm seeing it on social media. But, from what my understanding, understanding, overstanding is that this young man, and when I say young man, he's literally like the age of my daughter, my oldest. He's 31 or about to be 31 years old. He's been doing charitable work from, I guess since he started, his professional career. My understanding from reading on the Daily Mail, which is a UK publication, is that something came out where he has donated $45,000 US dollars towards a GoFundMe benefiting a school in Nigeria and an orphanage in Ghana. So before I dive a little bit deeper, I just wanted to make this a disclaimer: fair use, copyright 1976. This is all for teaching, criticism, etc. So this is fair use before I dive in. I'm going to be going into the IRS's website, and I'm going to be going a little further into the Daily Mail's article in which I got this from. And this was posted February 27, 2023, and where this young man donated $45,000, I guess, to be split up, but it's going to a GoFundMe from another young man who's supposed, his name is, we'll get into that in a minute. He's a traveler. All right. I don't know what that really means. I mean, I know what traveling is, traveler. I don't know his background as far as like what is his deal and what sparked him to do this, but he started actually the fundraiser. He started the GoFundMe in regards to wanting to help fix up and rebuild an orphanage that is in Ghana, and rather build a new orphanage, right? Because initially he wanted to start, he set a goal of 5,000 to help build a new orphanage in Ghana and improve a school and fund supplies to students in Nigeria. So we know that those are countries in the continent of Africa. So, automatically my spidey senses started to peak, and something in between the lines for me makes me think, just something's, off. I mean, and that could be just me. I'm not a pocket watcher in the sense, but this person is a public figure. So we have no, we have nothing but to look into his financial, aspects in regards to Kyrie Irving. So just a little background. He was born March 23rd. So he's going to be 31 or he's going to be 32. And he was born in Melbourne, Australia. All right. I'm sure by now he's a U.S. citizen. Okay. But he was born in Australia. His basketball career started with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2011. The Boston Celtics in 2017, the Brooklyn Nets in 2019, and currently he's with the Dallas Mavericks. And his salary as of 2023 is $36.93 million US dollars. So he is indeed a top billing paid athlete nonetheless. So yeah, $45,000 is like a small drop in the hat for him to do. So as I said, this fundraiser was started by a 22-year-old traveler by the name of Cameron Mofid, Mofid, who initially set a goal of $50,000 to help build a new orphanage in Ghana and improve a school and fund supplies for students in Nigeria. We all say that sounds wonderful, that sounds great, you know, kudos to him. The children in Africa, they need help, right? So there's where the spidey senses start tingling again, start kicking off, because in America alone, our school systems in certain areas and in certain cities are pretty much down the shithole. They're teaching very archaic and outdated history. And it's not really, it's like 60 years old, but the children that are learning like stuff of their great grandparents, things that we learned as well in the school system. So not much has really changed. What has changed is that they have this, what they call now, this testing, where it's not even so much to test if the child knows anything, really. It's testing to keep the schools up and going. And then they have, social passing, no child left behind, right? And so what you'll have essentially is a student who's not really articulate, doesn't know how to read or write per se, and they're just being socially promoted. And so now they're a super senior. Their IQ and their aptitude scores are low, right? And they're just lost in the sauce. And this is where we get student dropouts. We get disengagement in the classrooms, because they're not even learning what they're supposed to be learning. That everything is now based on testing to keep the schools afloat. Excuse me. And so you will have children that are just not, you know, educationally wise, not excelling. Right now, if you look in certain parts of the continent, Africa, there are students that are excelling than some of the students here, the children that are in the United States and in some of the impoverished neighborhoods. So let's just read a little bit. So I questioned, is this charitable? Is this part of tax write-offs? Because we do know that there is a percentage that, gets tax written when you do, send charity or donations and things like that. The philanthropist has been doing this since, inception of, that's what the whole philanthropic work was about. Right, you'll hear Carnegie or Carnegie, who helped fund with the New York Public Library here in the United States, and that really was like, my name is going to be on it. I'm going to look like I'm doing something, but it's all about money at the end of the day. And he was one of the powerful men with money, along with Rockefeller, etc. Right, and this is all 1920s, early 1900, 19th century or 20th century, excuse me. All right, so let's just go into the article a little bit. Don't forget, while you're stopping in, please hit the like button. Please hit the notification bell so you'll be alerted when I do go live. And if you're not yet a subscriber, hit the subscription. Everything is free here. It doesn't cost a dime, and sharing is caring. Okay, so let's go ahead and to this article. Again, it's the Daily Mail. It's a UK publication dated February 27th, 2003. Okay. So as I said, the fundraiser was started by a 22-year-old traveler by the name of Cameron Mofid, Mofid, who initially set a goal of 5,000 K to help build a new orphanage in Ghana and improve a school and fund supplies for its students in Nigeria. Now, I don't know too much about this young man's background, where he's from. I believe he's West African. If not, I could be mistaken. Why is this here? How do we get this off? Okay. So the Dallas Mavericks point guard Kyrie Irving has donated 45,000 US dollars to a fundraiser that benefits children in 2 communities in West Africa. This campaign has now topped 65,000 US dollars in donation to help children in the cities of Accra in Ghana and Lagos in Nigeria. Now, I was talking with Brother Panero, Panero's Mind. What's today? Saturday. I think we went on Thursday, and he had mentioned something else that was coming out of Lagos, Lagos, and some nefarious stuff that was happening there with a millionaire and some scandal going on there. So just pay attention to certain areas, like these countries. Again, being the person that I am, it's some of it is inquisitiveness, some of it is just intuitiveness, and I'm just like, wow, what, like Nigeria is a thriving country, if I'm not mistaken, and so is Ghana. Now, if you go on the outskirts of the city, yes, granted, it's not as modernized as it would be in the city. But again, I just want us to think. I'm not on a conspiracy bag. I just am giving my humble perspective on this, because it is a little jarring to say the least. It sounds great on the outside, on the grand scheme of things. It's, this athlete is giving donations, and it looks good on paper, right? But I have to remember as well, and I know some of us are old enough to remember that, they used to have commercials where it used to tear my heart apart as a America, watching Feed the Children, and their starving children. I think it was in Nigeria or Ghana. Nonetheless, it was in Africa. And they would show us that these children were, malnourished, big bellies. There's flies flying all around them. They're standing online just to get a bowl of some dirty water that's filled with malaria. And it was always, donate. If you can spare $1, whatever you can, feed the children, right? And that was back in the 80s. And so it's like we're still funding this type of work. And I don't know if there's a red line per se in the United States where, even if you wanted to donate, is there a cap financially? Like, is it that they can't really donate? Are they not going to get a bigger tax, deduction from this? So these are things that just, has my brain spinning. All right. Okay. So the person says, I just got back from backpacking in West Africa and set up a GoFundMe to raise funds for a school in a slum in Nigeria and an orphanage in Ghana that I visited. Mofid told the dailymail.com. He said, in quotes, we raised over $10,000 in the first week with the support of over 200 people, and a fundraiser started trending. Yesterday, I woke up to $45,000 donation from basketball star Kyrie Irving. All right, I'm going to stop right there for a second. What I didn't know as well with the GoFundMe is, and Brother Panero enlightened me as well. Again, Brother Panero mine. Shout out to the UK. He had mentioned that, and you guys can source this and look it up, but they take 30% of whatever money is sitting in the GoFundMe. So things that people were destitute, that couldn't really afford certain things. But young man, this Mofid guy, Cameron, he started out the GoFund Nigeria, and he sees, an orphanage. There needs to be a new orphanage set up, and so he starts this GoFundMe. He's 22, he can't afford it, so this is where this GoFundMe takes a life of its own. So he says he woke up and $45,000 was dropped into the GoFundMe by Kyrie Irving. All right, and there's a picture in the Daily Mail where Cameron has set up a campaign to help children of a school in Nigeria, and he's surrounded by little melanated boys and girls. They're all wearing like soccer athletic like a uniform, and he's standing there in their classroom holding the children, and they're looking all different directions. Some are looking at him, some are shy, some are just like, okay, this is a post-op, and we're here. His donation will provide a water tank for the school in Nigeria, so they have access to clean drinking water. What do we talk about, guys? They've been pumping this thing about the water being dirty, right? As I said, in the mid 80s, that's what we were seeing on TV. This is what I grew up with. I was sad and I wanted to donate, and I'm like 8 years old. But the psychosis of it, the programming in there was tearing at the heartstrings. So you wanted to like do a St. Jude's, or you wanted to donate to feed the children of the world and stuff, because you're like, wow, I have a nice warm home that I'm living in, and my parents are working, and I get pretty much all the toys that I want, and I get food on a hot meal every day and more than once a day. And from a little kid, that's where this was programmed into me, propaganda of donate. And I'm like, I feel sorry, I want to go donate. And then I'm like telling my mom, can we adopt? Because then there was another thing. There was another commercial where you can pledge to adopt a child, and you put your donation towards that child, and they'll be getting, clean water, drinking water. They'll be getting, inoculations and such. And I wanted my mom to do that, because I had a little brother, but I was like, I want to be like Josephine Baker. I want my mother to be Josephine Baker and just adopt all these kids. I want little siblings. I want little brothers, sisters, just because of watching these commercials. All right. So his donations will provide a water tank for the school in Nigeria, so they'll have access to clean drinking water, and also ensures that all 351 students in the school will have shoes, uniforms, books, and backpacks. Remember, Oprah Winfrey opened up her own school for girls, and I'm not sure of the country that she did it in, but that was there was some backlash behind that as well. Moffat says the difference in buying power between the United States and the two countries about 10 times greater in Ghana and Nigeria. Wonder why? As I just said, is it redlining? Is there a lot of red tape in the States that, you couldn't donate to certain charities in the States and help orphanages because of the financial constrictions? He just told us the two countries have about 10 times greater, buying power. What's going on with other parts of Africa that we see with other countries coming in and doing this modern day, slavery, and for better lack of words, right? They're going in and they're pillaging again, and they're everything that they do. Who do we go to when we need something, and get it at cheap labor, right? The other countries. But now they're going into Africa and mining. And I'm not going to say started mining, because they've always been there. It's just that it's becoming more of a global problem, because the children have been affected, by large. So again, when I hear something about donation, children, less impoverished children. Something goes a little off with me. I tweak, and because of everything that's been going on lately, two children, right? And it just has me in this, like, protect them. Okay, let's move on. Moffat says the difference in buying power, right? I just said that, between the United States and the two countries is about 10 times greater in Ghana and Nigeria, allowing him to meet his goals with only $5,000. We initially raised enough to buy the land for the new orphanage in Ghana, Moffat explained to dailymail.com. Excuse me, Kyrie's donation should be enough to fund the entire building of the orphanage, as well as a sports center for the kids. Not music center, not art center, but sports. So do you see where I'm going with this, guys? It's almost like a breeding ground to pump out your more athletes, right? Because athletes are top billers. Then you have your entertainers. And always the entertainment industry has always been on this propaganda and campaigning for, Africa. It's not like they're even going. The only thing that these entertainers will big up is, what is that? The Republican or Saudi Arabia Ephrates. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And that's become like a new Las Vegas. It's resortsy, right? Out in Saudi Arabia. But you'll never hear funding for the children that are there in the slums there. You're never going to hear, or no, I'm not going to say never, but you're less likely to hear about donating to children, the slums of children in China, or the slums of children in Japan, or in the Philippines, or Vietnam. You're always going to hear we're donating to countries in Africa. We already named a classroom in the school in Nigeria after him, of course, and rightfully so. And the future sports complex at the orphanage in Ghana will be named after him as well. Kyrie's donation, in quotes, means that we are now over 13 times our initial goal of the 5,000. In December, Kyrie donated $22,000 to help a young student stay enrolled at Howard University. So I'm saying this all to say that Kyrie Irving is a person who does donate. He has donated. I think he the families that were affected in the Buffalo massacre. He has been doing this. So I'm not singing him out. He's just kind of the poster child right now of doing the donations. Because there are people that, do it under the radar. They want to be anonymous and so forth and so on. But he's been one to where it has been publicly known that he's been donated, and not big, huge, large amounts of money, but enough to help cover with type of funeral, help the young student that enrolled in Howard, donated $22,000. All right. Okay, and that's the end of that. Now let's go to the charitable contribution deductions in the IRS website. All right, you guys can go to it. It's the irs.gov. And I wanted to just see, because again, where my mind kicks off is that it's just, I don't know, it's the children, it's Africa, and you're donating. again, this is not to slight on Kyrie. This is, if anything, he is being a humanitarian. March, he's in Aries. So he is giving, he may have like Aquarius rising or whatever. I'm throwing in my Foxy Moon premieres stuff. But that's neither here nor there. If that's just the type of person that he is, and he was brought up that way, then this is what he's doing. It really doesn't have to do with the signs and what sign they are and stuff like that. But Aquarians are the humanitarians of the zodiac. They do that type of big philosophical philanthropy type donations. They're out there in the bootstraps, helping humanity out. So I just wanted to see how this works in the grand scheme of things in regards to tax write-offs. Okay, so charitable contribution deductions, temporary suspension of limits on charitable contribution. This is in the IRS.gov again. Okay, and in most cases, the amount of charitable cash contribution taxpayers can deduct on a Schedule A is an itemized deduction is limited to a percentage. So remember, I was just asking, is there some red tape, some red lining? There has to be some kind of cap, and where the IRS is getting money, from these donations, right? Because we're saying, and it sounds great that Kyrie Irving is donating, and this young man who started the GoFundMe, great. There's money that these kids will be having drinking water now. They're going to have uniforms and backpacks and supplies, and there's an orphanage for children. But then there's going to be a sports center. So we got to see where all the money goes, right? So in the deduction on Schedule A as an itemized deduction is limited to a percentage, usually 60% of the taxpayer's adjusted gross income, or AGI. All right. Qualified contributions are not subject to this limitation. Individuals may deduct qualified contributions up to 100% of their adjusted gross income. Also know that when they do this stuff, now I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on this, but do look it up. Some of these entertainers, artists such as Wesley Snipes or Lauryn Hill, they have went to jail for tax evasion, is what they call it, right? And this is how New York State got with the RICO Act, because they wanted to stop, mob, or organized people, doing that type of business. And the only way that they can really get them and having charges stick was the RICO charge. And disclaimer, I am not a lawyer or any a legal advisor. I just know a little something about a little something. But please look this up so we can all be informed and aware, right? And New York State and the city is the only state, I believe, right now. I'm not sure if I think Chicago's taking on to it, in Atlanta, that they started the RICO Act. So you heard this back in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s with John Gotti Sr. And they would call him the Teflon Don, because none of the charges, they were trying to get him on all kinds of charges, of which I'm not going to go into right now. But the only ones that they can get stick was laundering of money. And they came up with the charge RICO Act, and it's an acronym for whatever the word is, the phrase. And you've heard it lately in regards to R. Kelly and some rappers down in Atlanta, where you heard the word RICO, and some of us rather, myself included, was not appalled, but alarmed on that, and just kind of like taken back, like, they got R. Kelly on RICO? Because we knew that RICO was specifically designated to mafiosa. And so when we heard why he would be now put under the category of RICO Act, it then clicks and makes sense. So like, oh, okay, because they couldn't get, and they still can't get him on certain things alleging to his nefarious acts, right? So they got him on money, and how they can tie the alleged acts together with the money, and that's how R. Kelly is, serving time, doing time now. So this is what they were doing with the rappers down in Atlanta. I don't recall their names. Again, I don't follow industry people like that. I don't follow entertainment, so I'm not big on who's what and stuff. But they're trending in their high quality, news, and so therefore you're like, what? These kids are on RICO? Because again, they can tie the government can tie certain things, and it's going along with money, that they can tie these people with the RICO Act. All right, so getting back to the IRS and charitable contributions, a corporation may deduct qualified contributions of up to 25% of its taxable income. Contributions that exceed that amount can carry over to the next tax year. All right, now to qualify, the contributions must be a cash contribution made to a qualifying organization and made during the calendar year 2020. Contributions of non-cash property do not qualify for this relief. The taxpayers may still claim non-cash contributions as a tax subject to the normal limits. All right, again, I'm reading out of the IRS. Qualified organizations, you may deduct you may deduct a charitable contribution made to or for the use of any of the following organizations that otherwise are qualified under the section 170C of the Internal Revenue Code, which is IRS. And there's a bunch of numbers. It lists about 8 of them. I'm not going to go into all of them. I'll read off just a few. I saw a nonprofit volunteer, a fire company, a war veterans organization. You can, this is, okay, a church, synagogue, or religious organization. So when Kanye West opened up his church, it's a tax write-off. It's put under the guise of contribution and etc. because it's a church, synagogue, or other religious organization. So your tax bracket changes. You're not getting, taxed up the wazoo, as they say, because you are a religious organization, church or synagogue, right? So these are why certain people maneuver and do now, is that true? I don't know. Don't quote me on it. I don't know if that's really why Kanye opened up his church. He does quote us God a lot and Jesus, and he's always been on that, wearing the whole Jesus piece, the Cesare Borgia medallions, right? So he's always been, if you want to call him Christian. But again, me knowing a little bit about a little bit, I just read to you what some of the qualified organizations fit under when you're not trying to avoid taxes, but you're trying to go under the radar a little bit and not pay high taxes. Remember, the more money you make, the more you get taxed. So now if I open up a religious organization, I'm not going to get taxed that much, right? Also, other or qualified organizations, a domestic fraternal society. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And some of these fraternal orders started when? By whom? I say no more. A nonprofit cemetery company if the funds are irrevocably deducted to the perpetual care of the cemetery as a whole and not a particular lot or mausoleum crypt. Interesting. The War Veterans Organization, Auxiliary Trust, a community chest corporation trust, a fund or a foundation organized or created in the United States or its possessions, or under the laws of the United States, any state, the District of Columbia, which is DC, or any possessions of the United States, and organized and operated exclusively for charitable, religious, educational, scientific, or literal purposes, or for the prevention of cruelty to children and animals. And I'm going to stop right there. You could read all of this in detail at the irs.gov and type in charitable organizations, and boom, it will give you what I just read. And it has about 8 qualified organizations that under the United States would qualify you to get your tax write-off or your charitable contribution, and therefore it's a tax write-off. Okay. And so, like I just said, if you open a religious organization or educational, right? I talked about what's his name, Carnegie. He opened up or helped fund and open up the New York Public Library in New York City. All right. And he also has his own opera center, or it is an opera center, but people do other musical shows in there, the Carnegie Hall. And if you got to Carnegie Hall, whoa, baby, you're in the big times, as they say. Carnegie Hall and Radio City Music Hall. All right. So there was educational. There's your educational and literary purposes. There's your New York Public Library. All right. Smithsonian. Those are also places, museums, educational and scientific. These places get you the tax deductions. Falls onto to humanitarian. Did these people, was it really big business, big venture? For the most part it was, but I think they also, a lot of them were into that teaching, science and things like that. So they created things like the Smithsonian down in Washington, D.C., and created the New York Public Library in New York City as teaching, but also, tax write-offs. So that is that. Salute to the chat as I'm just looking at you guys. I was reading off of my screen. So salute to everybody coming through. Boost is in the building. My brother Maybach is here. Wally's in the building. Young Thugs. Right, there we go. Thank you, Wally. I wish I had did the StreamYard, because then I could have had you guys come up and talk, a little bit more. So yeah. I mean, you guys can comment in the chat. Just, what, like, do y'all feel like how I feel, or am I just like tripping? Because I don't want to seem like I'm tripping, and I don't want to pocket watch anybody. But again, his money is out for display. And when I say he, I'm talking about Kyrie Irving. And you're just checking in, I'm talking about Kyrie Irving, the basketball player, super basketball player, that donated $45,000 towards a GoFundMe. Benefiting a school in Nigeria. We talked about this with Brother Pinero, Maybach. And I just wanted to dive a little bit deeper, because I was just like, there might be a lot of redlining to do certain things here in the States, and there's probably why donating overseas or donating outside of the United States might be cheaper. The young man who started this GoFundMe said it himself. it's 10 times economically, it's easier to do outside of the United States than it is to work and operate and do this type of funding and stuff like that. But correct me if I'm mistaken, because you brothers are in here. I got the brothers in here today. When did like this the whole philanthropy and so-called humanitarian, when did that all kind of start? Was that like 18 in the late 1800s, early 1900s? I know 1920 was a big number, was a big year. But I don't want to, misquote and say things. I do want us to do our due diligence and research. But, that's pretty much big, that's when big boom was for them. That's the boom of the industrial era. You had your tycoons like the Rockefeller, Heinz in Philadelphia, right? Ford, that were paving the way, but everything was all about money. And they were all in a race to be the top dog in the arena. And if I'm not mistaken, I think in 1920 they had a meeting on Jekyll Island in Georgia, and this is where our oh my goodness, what is this? You guys could say it in the chat. I'm not. Oh my goodness, it's at the tip of my tongue. The not the Mint, Federal Reserves. They had a meeting. I want to say 1920 or so. It was like this secret society meeting. And they had whatever type of discussion going on there that basically, started off the Federal Reserves, which when we do our research, that's not even ours. That's not even the United States, actually. That's going out to, Italy and Vatican, allegedly. And it's heavily guarded by the U.S. Reserve military people, but so there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And when I see, and I don't want to divert, but I'm just saying these are things to think about, because all this ties into money. Everything, the fiat, the currency that some of these people do. And I believe that Kyrie was part of a fraternity, if I'm not mistaken. Most of these guys that are in the entertainment or more athletics they come from the fraternal world. Some of the presidents were and are, signed up for certain fraternities. It was no secret about George Washington. Excuse me. Well, George Washington was, yes. But George Bush and his father, right? They went to, was it Yale or Harvard? And Skull and Bones, secret society and stuff like that. So they have their own lingo and their own way of doing things that, circulates. Ooh, my Lotus is here. Yay! Salute, Lotus. Good afternoon, little sis. They have their own way of dealing and doing things, and everything is revolved, again, by the almighty dollar. Even if you look at your dollar bill, there's all signs and symbols behind it, behind the dollar bill. Again, so when I hear things like donations and charity, and it's going out to Africa, the slums of Nigeria, and the children there, and there's needs an orphanage for the I mean, there's orphanages here, but again, we don't know what's the red lining, what's the red tape. Is it harder to do certain things in the United States? As I said, the tax bracket is higher the more money you make. Now, Kyrie Irving, according to Wikipedia, unfortunately, that's where I got that information from. He makes about $36.93 million. All right. And he's only 30, 31. All right. His birthday's the end of this month. So that's That's a hell of a lot of money for a young person, right? But we know that Kyrie, again, this is not a witch hunt for him. This is not singling him out. This is not wagging my finger and casting him to be, making him, making him like a martyr or whatever. It's just he is the poster child right now. He's always been doing this philanthropy work, donating, right? I just read in the article, again, thedailymail.com, that he had given $22,000 donation to a student to go to Howard University. All right, so Kyrie has been doing this stuff. So that shouldn't raise our eyebrows, or look at him sideways like, oh, he's just he's donating to Africa. No, because he's been doing this type of work. My spidey's kick in because it's like, really? Because we've been hearing this for 40 some odd years now about donating to the children in Africa, feeding the children in Africa, feeding and I'm like, I'm kind of getting tired of hearing that. No disrespect to Africans, no disrespect for the children. And Nigeria is one of those countries that are kind of upcoming. It's become very modernized. Ghana as well. And so the person who started this fundraiser by the name of Cameron Mofid, who's 22 years old, he's a traveler himself. He said he was backpacking in West Africa, and all of a sudden, like, he realized the children need a school and they need supplies and they need, mind you, when we get to the nitty gritty of the article, it says that this school in Nigeria is going to have a sports center. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, a sports center. Why? Why not an art school? Why not a music school? Why not engineering? Why not like a NASA, have scientific discoveries? Why not STEM cells? Why not coding? Why are we doing a sports complex in Nigeria? I thought that their football I thought overseas, other than the United States, that their football is very popular. All other countries except for us in the States, because our football is a different type of football. We call their football would be our soccer. But that's pretty much that's their sport. And so the sports complex is going to be named after Kyrie, right? Rightfully so, because he donated the $45,000. But it's also going to be going towards clean water supply again, because in 1985 they were talking about clean water, right? And that it was going to be going towards books, school supplies, and uniforms. And not just any old uniform. As I gave you the visualization, they're wearing a sports uniform, t-shirt and some shorts. So my spidey senses, as I keep saying, my third eye, my intuition is like, so we're rearing and grooming children for sports. Like it's a machine. So I question, where's the authentic. Now, I'm not to say that Kyrie, there was no it didn't come from his heart, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, now the person who started the fund, that's the one we should be questioning, because it just all sounds so sketchy. He's a traveler. He happens to go to West Africa and see these two countries in need. He says he went to the slums and boom, I'm gonna help build this orphanage in Ghana and Nigeria. You're gonna get the school supplies, the working water. Oh yeah, we're gonna put in a sports complex as well. He said it's 10 times more marketable. I'm paraphrasing. He says it's more marketable to do that kind of stuff out there. Put his money towards doing that than it is donating here in United States of America. But let's not be hoodwinked to the fact that there are certain cities in these beautiful United States are suffering. The educational system, let's be very clear and honest. Some of those children in Nigeria, even in Jamaica, parts of the Caribbean, their educational system is phenomenal compared to some of the children, some of our education here. So again, I'm like, please miss me with the you're donating when they're not. These children are super smart. So what's the real alternative? What's the real motive? Is this just the tax write-off? Again, not pointing fingers at Brother Kyrie, because he does have a heart. But we also have to be very clear that he's part of a bigger machine. He's part of an industry that, they glorify the almighty dollar. They glorify money by any means necessary. And so, half of this, I don't want to make it sound religious or biblical or spiritual, but like they say, all money is not good money. So while somebody might have the right intentions, I'm donating to Brother Booster, Brother Maybach, Brother Wally, my sister Lotus, and I'm giving y'all money out of my heart. My intentions are to help where I can to you guys. What you do with it, I have no control over. So then it can be used for nefarious things. God forbid. But I know y'all wouldn't do that. You guys. I'm just saying. That's where I'm coming from with the Kyrie, maybe coming from a place of love. He's been on his Hebrew Israelite and his religious and all this stuff. So I'm knowing, he's coming from a place of being a godlike child and wanting to help, humanity out in that respect. But we don't know behind the scenes of who is now dealing with this money. How is it being divvied up? I think Brother Maybach had pointed out to us on Brother Panero's platform that, Oprah Winfrey, she opened up an all-girls school in one of the countries in Africa, and it didn't do so well. There was backlash and other nefarious things, which I'm not going to talk about, that allegedly happened to some of these young ladies, some of these young girls. So again, this is why my senses start to peak, because this didn't happen just, this wasn't like centuries ago and you're hearing, oh, Oprah went. No, this is still recent. This is current. It's not yesterday current, but it's current. And for those who are wise enough to know, you have this information retained. So you're like, wait, hold up a minute. Didn't Oprah, what's in her? Yeah. And Chicago, look at how that's going. So you mean to tell me you went all the way to Africa, found a little destitute country part, a country in Africa, but you found like a little shanty town, and then you opened up an all-girls school? You mean to tell me you couldn't do that in Chicago? Or even if you couldn't open up a school in Chicago, I haven't heard to this day. Now, maybe she goes anonymous, but I haven't heard to this day, Brother Rich, to this day, that she's helped in any way with the children in Chicago. And we don't want to sound like we're pocket watching people, but these are public figures. So their money is going to be up for scrutiny. Their money is going to be up for us to pocket watch. And when I say pocket watch, it's a term that we use where you're watching somebody else's money. Again, like I said, these people are up, they're public figures. So yeah, you're going to bat your eye a little bit like, what? Kyrie's making how much now? Oprah did who? What? She's making what? And like, seriously, I could be wrong. I could be very much be wrong that I don't know if she's done anything big in Chicago, but I've never seen anything on the headlines. I've never read about it in like 20 years since she's been in media. I don't know, since the 80s. I haven't heard no big title, no big headline saying, she helped the children, she helped the private school, she put in, help fund the library, she fixed their library up. So it's like we choosing and picking where we want to go. But then I just read off the IRS.gov certain what qualifies, contributions, what qualifies you to get a tax write-off. So, people know how to do the loopholes, but this is what gets some of these entertainers jammed up, because they're making a big amount of money. They're now in a higher tax bracket. And so therefore their taxes are going to be, that's where IRS is coming for, that big salary that you made at the end of the year. So it's easy to just let me start donating, or you're evading tax. I was watching on YouTube the entertainer from CeCe Wine's nephew. Forgot what his name is, something Wine. He evaded paying taxes for 10 years. So his kid's mother, not his wife, but the kid's mother, took him for child support because, she was like, this guy went and got married on me. He's paying for other people. He's paying for his other child, but I have his child, and he's been avoiding paying child support. So he went to jail for that. And I'm not 100% sure how true this is, but I heard that you don't have to pay taxes. Now, please don't start like what Foxy said, and I don't have to pay taxes. If you're in a certain bracket, it's not going to mean too much if you miss a year or two. But we're talking about these entertainers that clearly this guy makes $36.93 million. Kyrie Irving. So imagine him missing a couple of years. The IRS is coming for you. So you start doing little things like donating here and there, so you're not, penalized. But still, in all, you got to pay the piper, and that's what IRS is about. You work for the corporation, you're paying us at the end of the year. We'll throw you back a little bone for your services. And a lot of people are putting up memes about, and this is not to slight Black people now, but I'm guilty. I'm like, when's that tax paper coming? When is that money coming through? You're looking at your deposit. It's still saying whatever balance you have in your checking account, and you're waiting for that those couple of $1,000s, and then they're making fun of guys like he's cleaning up. There's one little Instagram thing where they got Mr. Clean cleaning up the house, and he's like, yeah, just waiting for her. I saw how much she was getting back on her taxes, and he's cleaning up her house. So we are guilty of doing this. We're sitting there waiting for these little bits of thousands of dollars, because that's a lump sum. And we're waiting for that to come at the end of the year, or the beginning of the year, and everybody's nice. You claiming little Tommy and Shantae, who these are your cousins. Oh, they're my dependents. You trying to see, who's going to be getting guilty, who's not the other kids, but okay, is it your turn to go claim this one this year, or can I claim this one this year because my check was looking a little low? And you're literally negotiating your dependence with your partner. It's madness, and it's funny and it's sad at the same time, and I'm laughing because I'm guilty. That couple of $1,000s looking real good. You got ideas, you cleaning up, you fixing up the house, you putting it towards the new car, you going on your vacation. I mean, you got all kinds of ideas, and when you get that check, it is gone. Those couple of $1,000s, if you have that dependent, the child care, because some of us don't have the child dependent where we can claim the child taxes. So we're probably getting back a couple of hundred or less. And it's like, now you're knocking at somebody's door like, you got a little something, something to lend me. I'm just saying, guys. But thank you and salute to everybody that's coming through, that's been hanging out with me in the chat, and those that will be following, later on the replay. This is not to single out, again, as I keep stating that, and I wanted to make it very clear. It's not a witch hunt or a chastising Kyrie. It's just I have to question everything at this point. Nothing is on face value anymore. Nothing is what it seems. And we're in a weird, peculiar time. Ooh, Brother Panero said, thank you. I've been trying to resurrect you in here. Like, yes. And we were talking about this on Brother Panero's platform. And here he is in the flesh. This is our UK brother. Salute to him. Salute to Panero's Mind, Surviving Mind. If you're going on tonight, let me know. Again, this is not to cast stones at Kyrie Irving, right? It's just to make us aware of, when we hear words like donation and charity, where this all stems from, where this is all following from, right? I just told you guys about philanthropists back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Carnegie is one of them. Rockefeller is another one, and other various guys during that time that did things like open up the Carnegie Hall, open up the New York Public Library in New York City. Even in Brother Panero, in the UK, right? They got Cambridge, Oxford. I mean, that's where all that stuff is coming from when it comes over here. We need to be very clear. So they're kind of like taking the cousins or themselves, leaving England and coming to the United States, hence the 13 colonies, right? We're going to do all this kind of geography, but it's a lesson. And so they've come over here and set up shop, and it's a different, now we can make our own rules. Now we can regulate and the little people, they got to pay the piper. But the people who make the most money, right, during that time frame, they were banking off. The bankers, they were, living off the land, literally, like doing whatever they wanted, because they were in position and they wrote the books. So, like I said, when they went to have that mysterious, confidential meeting on Jekyll Island, that's what they were making up. They're making up their own laws and rules and regulations, and how, they're going to skirt around certain things and whatever have you. I wasn't there. We weren't there. We don't know. But people, when you're in a different type of tax bracket financially, some people think that that they're above the law, that they can bend the rules, they can break the rules. Even poor people too, I would have to say, like a young, what's his name, Thug and YSL. Just because you doing certain things, it doesn't mean you're above the law. You still, your money might get you some good lawyers. But their laws and their regulations, and when I say there, I mean the United States corporation, dictates what's going to happen to you. So, I'm not going to be long before you guys. I just wanted to bring this up and have that conversation. And feel free to, put in the comments after the live, what's your take on? I did do a vote, and the vote came back that this is charity. Because I asked, is this charitable work or is this a tax write-off? And it's a little of both, to be honest. It's a little of both. No one answer is correct. I feel like it's a little bit of both. It's partially, charity, yes, and partially I'm going to get a little kickback off of this. Now, my check is not going to be, messed up too much because I'm donating here. But we just got to keep our eyes open because a lot of stuff is like just going through the pipeline. That's, our children are being, I don't want to say the word targeted. But our children are, but it is in a nutshell, because they are susceptible, because they are influenced or influential, right? And so, who better to, gear towards and propagandize to than the youth? They're impressionable. So if I can, like I said, it was 1984, 85. I wanted to donate a little kid in Africa. Because that's all we were seeing on the commercials was, $1 can help. Feed this little malnourished. And I'm like, Mom, can we adopt a baby? Can we adopt one of the children? And I'm a kid. So can you imagine what it's like now for children? I think it's worse because, it's in your face 24/7 now. It's not programmed where it was in 84, where my parents gave me a certain time to watch TV. Like I couldn't sit there and watch TV all the time. They used to call it the idiot box. My parents didn't put me in front of the TV. And if it was, you got a certain time frame to watch your cartoons. And after that, I was watching the news. I was watching National Geographics with my father because he would say, watch something educational. My dad always. It was so annoying to hear him and my mother. My mother would be like, oh, you're bored? Read a book. My father, oh, you're bored? Go watch something educational. It was torture, them saying that to me. But I thank them for that, my master teachers. Because that's exactly, I had no choice but to then sit there and be like, all right, if I'm going to watch TV, I'm going to sit here and watch it with him. So, yeah, we're going to watch, In Search Of. Yeah, we're going to watch a Natural Geographic. We're going to watch some of this boring stuff. But that stuff sank in my head to where I'm like, okay. And they bought me the encyclopedias, Britannicas. My mother had a layaway on the Britannica books. She had the salesman came to the door, knocking on the door. Oh, you want to buy these books? She didn't even finish paying off of it. And I think we got up to like T or something. So my parents, they were all about like, you got to read. Grandparents, my great grandparents were on that timeline. They weren't on some, she's going to sit there and watch TV, or the children. We had a certain time. And once that time was up, you go figure something out in your room. You play with your toys, you read a book. Sure, it's time for you to take a bath and go to bed. Like everything was structured. Nowadays, it's not as structured, and you don't have that type of discipline the way our great-grandparents, grandparents, and parents are. You have a younger group of parents, I myself, but you have a younger group of parents that grew up in this media. So they're sitting there like, watching, social media more so than their parents did. Right. And that's not their fault. It's by design. We're going to, we're going to make things accessible to people now. Everything was by design. From the radio, television, you got newspapers before all that. And now you have computers and little phones, little computers you're holding on to. So that's all by design. How you use it and how you maneuver with it is a different story. So if you were raised like some Gustapa parents that I had that were like, you know how to balance the two out. You're not always going to be on social media. You're going to read a book or grab a newspaper. People are not really reading that stuff now. But you got to. because then it's going to make you more, it will level up your intelligence for one, right? And then it's going to, for two, make you aware of what's going on. If you're just getting stuff from social media and you're taking that on face value, like I said just a little while ago, you're going to think what's being programmed and put out there on social media as law, as word, not knowing that people alter videos and they add and snippet. You're getting a 1-minute clip of something that's 20 years worth of studying. So you're sitting here like, and that's great that they're putting that information out, but you have to use your discernment. You can't just take the 1-minute clip and be like, oh, that's face value. No, they're altering the videos as well. They're fixing it and doing whatever they can, splicing it up so that you're like, okay, this is great. This is information, and I can leave with that. That's why my spidey senses was tingling when I'm like, oh, donation 45,000 to Africa, Ghana, Nigeria. And no disrespect to Nigeria, but they've been known to be like scammers. They've got a bad rap to be like scammers. So I'm like, what? So please don't come at me, Nigerians. I'm just saying, y'all got, just like Jamaicans, the Haitians, any foreign Caribbean, every ethnicity's got its own little what you call stereotype. All right, is it true? No, not all of them, but yeah, there are people out there that are scamming. They could be in Pakistan, Bangladesh, calling you, talking about, oh, your social security. What are you talking about now with this accent? Like, what? So we're not going to say that the Nigerians like that. I'm just saying that is spiked my intuition to hear this type of thing: charity, money, donations. When there's stuff here in the States that needs to be taken care of, that needs to be fixed. Like, why would you be out there? You know what I mean? So I question it, but we question everything. We should question everything, and do our background check on these things, because they do a background check on us. These people don't sleep. So why should you? You should question everything at this point, because nothing, like I said, or not nothing, but some things are not on face value anymore. They're going to just give it to you, and if it sticks, then they succeeded. It works. Thank goodness for intuition, because that's going to kick in and that's going to let you know, that doesn't sound right. Your gut feeling, thank goodness for gut feelings, because you got to go with it sometimes. If it's not making sense too much within you, then chances are you're right, and what you're feeling is validated, and what's going on is probably wrong. But that's not to say that this young man, what he's doing is wrong. But behind the scenes, on the grand scheme of things, there could be some nefarious things going on. And we've seen this play out. So that's it. This is not something I'm just grabbing from the top of my head or out of my ass to make it content. We've seen certain things play out in the news, where we've heard failed businesses, that people have played on the innocent, the impoverished, all for a buck, all to make a buck, all to scheme on somebody. You hear little old ladies and, oh, I got hacked, my social security, they were waiting for me. Like we've heard this. So question everything, read up on these things, because now they're going to throw all this information out to you as if it's, like I said, Bible, and you're going to take it, you're going to run with it, and you're going to be like, well, this is information. When all along, it's a smidget of information that you're getting that may or may not even be true. And so we're going to have to question it more so now than anything, because we're in the age of Aquarian, which is the knowing, which is the no more believing, but I know now. So now you really have to stand on those 10 toes and be like, I know that this is not right. I know that this is that is right. Before we believed, we were like, oh, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt, and we hope and we wish. And now in the age of Aquarian, it's the I know. So if you know that's wrong and you're still doing it, or you're still going with the okie doke, then that's on you. But we're not going to play those reindeer games right now. Not when there's too much information out there that you can't go ahead and research it. That's the beauty of the information as well, of technology. It's a blessing and a curse. You're out there searching, you're going to find some stuff that may not have been accessible 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Now it is. But cross-reference it. Is it really true? Right? Or is the stuff that they're giving us BS? And so cross-reference it, research it. Because that's the best, as I just said, that's the beauty of now we have this. We don't have to really go to the library per se. We don't got to spend hours in the bookstore trying to find these books and trying to find. You should go to a bookstore or go online and get some of these books. But you don't really have to do that now. You go on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop, and type it in, look it up, and then it's like, oh, okay. But just don't take what little thing that they're giving us on social media as credence, because that's what the name of the game is right now. They're going to try to throw so much stuff at you to see what sticks, and that's the propaganda. Now you're going to run with whatever this false information is, and you're going to be like, yeah, but that's the truth. Your truth is not their truth, and their truth is not your truth. And somewhere in the middle, there's a lie in it all. Somewhere in the middle, or rather, I should say, somewhere in the middle, there is a truth. But most of it is like just smodge podge, and you got to surf through what's the truth, and your truth might not be my truth. So I could be saying some stuff to you right now that you're like, I don't know about all that, Foxy, but let me go look it up and see. And that's what we should be doing. We should be questioning each other, holding each other accountable as well. Not just taking it on, oh, so-and-so said this. So, just before I got on live, I was watching Reach One, Teach One. And, he was talking about, it hurts me because I'm like, what? When he started talking about the slavery and things like that. And, just trying to make it make sense for us. And the one thing that got to me, and he had mentioned this once before, is that, and I'm segueing because this is another side note, but he was talking about how prophets came about in the States. So you heard of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Elijah Muhammad. So none of these guys went to, and this is not, again, to slight any one person, because Brother Malcolm, the Honorable Malcolm X, Malik El-Shabazz, he was a prime example of being a scammer, selling box. And when I say box, y'all know what I'm talking about. Selling white women box at that. He was doing drugs. And he was burglarizing homes. Got caught, got busted, and did 8 years in the penitentiary. And in that course time, his siblings were writing to him saying, you need to change your way in your life. Give yourself up to, the Nation of Islam. Turn yourself around, basically. And sure enough, within those 8 years, in that course of time, he did. And he not only did all that, but he helped the Nation of Islam get a spot on the map. He was being an advocate not only for Allah, but he was being an advocate for Prophet Elijah Muhammad. Now, what's alleged is that supposedly it got back to him that Elijah Muhammad was having affairs with young girls. And I'm using the word affair nicely. And so that broke Brother Malcolm's heart, apparently. And it's like this man that I saw in this light, that I followed, that I would go through a burning building and a burning bush for, is doing this. Now, y'all all know I'm really very putting this in a small capsule of what I'm trying to get to with what I was watching before I got onto my live. So this brother, Brother Danny, was saying how these prophets came about in the in the early 1900s. That these guys weren't ordained in, religious, they weren't ordained to be prophets or pastors. They didn't go to ministry school. These guys were actually scammers. And they had a whole bunch of them. Noble Jew Ali was just one to name a few. But they had some in Philadelphia, some in Chicago, Prophet Elijah Muhammad. And their storyline is always, since a child, they were growing up in Christian background, African American Zion Methodist, AME Methodist, and they got a calling, and a calling meaning they got a calling from God, and they became prophets at an early age. And so, but before all that, they were scamming, running numbers. The story with Noble Drew Ali, and I never knew this, is that he was claiming himself to be a mystic, and he was trying to sign up with some person in India because he had studied like Hinduism or something like that. This is public knowledge, but it's not all public knowledge. So when this guy was saying all this, I was like, damn, really? He was wearing the turbans, and he was out in Jersey. He had the crystal ball, and how he was making his money was telling people about their fortune and how he can heal with some type of syrup or some kind of, they said, snake oil. And he was selling that to the less fortunate people in Newark, New Jersey. And this is like 1912, 1911. Exactly, Brother Maybach. Question everything. So when this information was being, now I'm not going to say that this, now see the person, this guy who on YouTube, his platform, Teach One, he had newspaper clippings that he's researched, and he's been doing this for 10 years. So I'm not really going to question too much of that, but it's still something to research. Like, damn. Same thing with and how the that Moorish science temple came about. was because of that. I just read to you on the IRS what charitable organizations put you in a different tax bracket that you're really not going to get tampered with, or you're not going to the IRS is really not going to come knocking on your door like that. Why? Because you're opening up a religious organization. This is why I question a little bit what was Kanye West's thing for opening his church. Was that tax write-offs? What are we doing here? So with Noble Drew Ali, there came others. Far Muhammad, who was before Elijah Muhammad. He also, there's a mugshot of him being locked up in Alcatraz out in California. Then he escaped all that and came over to the East Coast, changed his name and became Fard Muhammad. Or was this Noble Drew Ali? Noble Drew Ali. And Fard Muhammad is the founder of the nation, or so-called founder of the Nation of Islam. And he himself wasn't a practicing Muslim in that respect. So, I'm like blown away. My head was spinning this the first time I heard that this guy was talking about this, and I was just like, what? But I'm saying to say this, there could be some divine intervention, right? We want to give the benefit of the doubt. There could be some divine intervention where they're like, you know what, let me redeem myself for the people. I'm going to, open up this organization. And, I'm going to help the less fortunate out. But it's like after you done scammed everybody. So it's almost, there's a fine line there, because it's like, okay, well, you're opening this up to avoid getting locked up, or are you really doing this because God spoke to you and said you need to, open this up for the people? I got something in my eye. So this is how that all it developed, right? And the only one that I can say really, really showed us and proved to us that he turned his life around and gave his life to Allah was Malcolm X. Where he's told us, I did this, that, and the third. And in real time, he showed us how he changed his life around. But the other people, they're too far back in history for us to really see and trace their steps. I mean, like, we really got to go through the archives to really search and look through to see, Noble Drew Ali, that's 100 odd years ago, 100 plus. So even though they might have did some shadow dodgy kind of stuff to other people, the fact that they then opened up these organizations that people still stand on to this day and are doing great things, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, it then speaks for itself. So you can't even, you don't want to be like, oh, the founders are shady. Every person has a shady past. Not every person. Some people have a shady past. Some of it is a little sketchy. But when they turn themselves around for the greater good, that's what counts. But they have a past. I have a past. Some of it was sketchy. Y'all know, I tell y'all my story about me being a teenage mother. Having sex at an early age. Wasn't the right thing to do, but that helped shift my life. That helped change my trajectory and put me on a different path of, all right, now I got to be conscious of this little person. I got to be conscious of this life that I created. It's not about me anymore. So every move I make, I got to think twice now. So, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. But part of it is where you're from. Because that's part of you too. If you had a dodgy or a rough, path and you did some things that were unsavory, and now you changed yourself around and you did a 180 and you're doing better for yourself, your family, and humanity, then yeah, that counts. So I don't want to throw the baby with the bathwater out and wag my finger towards these men that might or might not have been scamming others, but they changed themselves around for whatever reason, if that's what it was, and created some nations out of that, created some good stand-up people like a Malcolm X, or Clarence X, or William X, who started the 5%ers, that they're 5%ers now. It's almost like, okay, so it's actually a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, in hindsight, oh, these guys were fuck ups. Excuse my language, but something good came out of this. Something still good is coming out of this. Again, with Kyrie Irving, this, he something good is coming out of him, where he's like, look, I want to give, I want to do this, I want to do that. We don't know who's dabbling behind the scenes with his money. You know what I'm saying? And we can only give him the benefit of the doubt too, because we don't even know if he's really like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna get my tax write-off. Like, we don't really know, but he's showing us a character. So I kind of want to believe that this young man is led by God, if you will. He's led by a divine love, which is having him like, listen, when they were doing the whole, we're not taking that, he's not taking that, he was the only one that stood up to the team and was like, I'm not gonna play then. If I gotta come in there and get that thing in me, I'm not rolling that way. So he's definitely been showing us a stand-up kind of character at a very young age. And so I don't want to say that he's involved in any kind of shady stuff, but I'm not going to totally dismiss it either. Because as I just told you, there's been people in our history that have done shady stuff, and we'd be like, oh no, not the Prophet Muhammad, not the Prophet Ali. You know what I mean? And it's like, no one's perfect. But we put certain people up on pedestals and put this, put this persona up for them. And, they're just regular people. They're mere mortals that are Tupac Shakur. I mean, this is exactly why I put him on today, because this is an example of somebody who, if he had the money the way Kyrie had the money, and Kyrie's young and Pac was young, Tupac would have definitely been doing that, but he wouldn't have been like doing the Africa stuff. Like, he definitely would be here in Oakland, in New York City, in the Bronx for sure, helping the schools out. His parents were in the Bronx and they helped the community out. So I know, I don't know. I would like to say that he would have been doing that. And that's a problem, because like with Malcolm, Brother Malcolm shut down the whole block in Harlem and protested when they went to the hospital there in Harlem Hospital, and a young man got shot or beat up by the cops. And Brother Malcolm said, I want to know what the results are with this young man. I want to know what's going on. And he didn't leave until the doctors came out to then say X, Y, and Z. And Brother Malcolm, y'all saw it in the movie. The police said, now get all these people out of here and stop all this noise. He had all the crowds around. And Brother Malcolm put up his hand and went like this. Nation of Islam turned, moved in silence. The police said that's too much power for one man to have. Whether this was true or not, it was put in the movie. But Tupac Shakur was like that. Another soldier, Khalid Muhammad, coming out of the Nation of Islam and then going into the new Black Panthers. Too much power for that man. He was going on what they call white media, Phil Donahue, and telling them, Dr. Huey P. Newton, co-founder of the Black Panthers, they made him, they got him as a drug addict. He went from being a scholar to being a bum, all within a couple of years, and then assassinate him, allegedly. Because it's just too much power. And so Kyrie, I think he may know that, and so he plays, he plays the chessboard as he should, and in some ways, because he's a very young person that has a lot of money that can make. He's a paradigm shifter. He can make some things happen. He can have young men look up to him and be like, "Look, we get him. We resonate with him. We didn't want to take that either, and he stood up for something." So definitely he's somebody to, he's in there. He's in that spectrum of a Tupac Shakur, Khalid Muhammad, Brother Malcolm X. Brother Malcolm was 38, 39 when he was assassinated. Again, fairly young. So when he was doing all his ministry and all his, getting the black and black man, black woman, uniting and getting them off drugs and off the streets, and telling them about the Nation of Islam, telling them about Allah. That's a problem for certain government officials, apparently. And so, what better thing to do? What other thing are we going to do? We're going to start using different tactics. This is in the COINTELPRO. This is not new. This is not something that I'm pulling out of my butt. It was written. We're going to do certain things and cause chaos and get agitators within these communities. They did that in the Nation of Islam. They did that in the Black Panthers. Now they done radio silence the Panthers to where it's like they're moving in the shadows. Dr. Mutula Shakur was released back in December. That was Tupac's stepfather. And he just was released from prison. He was locked up in 1960 something, 68. Because he was helping the veterans and the community in the South Bronx get off of heroin back in the 60s when they were coming back from the Vietnam War. And went to Canada to get his acupuncture license so he can come back and do medicinal work and be a healer in that respect, like a Dr. Sebi. And he didn't name himself Dr. Sebi. He said the people named him Dr. Sebi because he was healing naturally. Some people want to take Dr. Sebi's name as well and say, he did same thing with Tupac. But I say, listen, almost all of us have a sketchy past. We all have done some dodgy things. But there's something in us, and I want to say that's divine, that comes through and has to change us and changes our trajectory, changes the paradigm and where we're moving and moves us into another plight in where we're helping humanity out now. If we were hurting humanity, now we're helping them. You got to shift. So, again, I'm going to keep saying this. It's not for me to wag my finger and say, shame on him or, he shouldn't be doing that. What is it? I'm just questioning why Kyrie, I'm just questioning the motive behind it. And I know why he's doing it, but we've heard a lot of shadiness that happens out there in Africa and certain parts of Africa. But no one is without blemish. Even your Jesus Christ was what they would consider a heretic. If you follow the Bible and you subscribe to that Christian narrative. Am I right? They had to 86 him. I mean, he had followers. He had a crew. He had disciples. Rome was not having that. That's your ancient cops. They were like, oh, no, 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 no. Who is this person? What is he doing now? Resurrecting the dead. I'm just like, I don't know if that's what Pontius Pilate was saying, but he damn sure was like, listen, this guy gotta go. He's got a crowd. He's feeding the crowd. He's enlightening them. You got Mary Magdalene, who was his twin flame. She was talking to the women because back then, the men, they couldn't go in certain, women couldn't go into like the synagogues where all the men were practicing, or praising. So what you do, you got Mary Magdalene. They don't want to talk about Mary Magdalene was one of the disciples. I don't want to get too religious on us now, but she was one of the disciples. It wasn't all the men. And she was his right hand man, if you will. She's the Holy Grail. So she would go and talk to the women and, get them to wake up in a sense and let them know you're just not women. You're just not here to lay down and bear children. Watch this movie on Netflix called Magdalene. It's very interesting. I think it's good. Even if you're not into Christian, use it as a research movie. Of course, it is whitewashed. They got Joaquin Phoenix playing Jesus, but they got two brothers in there. I mean, brothers. So I was like, okay, big up to that. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying that the story, like what you're just being the researcher. And Mary Magdalene was one that was like, listen, I want to be in the synagogue. I want to be where the men are. That they're actually teaching something. She saw her sisters giving birth and she's being a midwife and she's like, I don't want that. I don't want to be laying here just having babies, being subservient. I resonate with Mary Magdalene. She's the if you want to say feminist, she was the feminist of the time, but she wasn't the feminist in where I'm better than man and you're going to stand up to your man. No, she just let them know, like, listen, you have a voice. You're not just the baby maker. You're very important to your community. You're very important to your family. And just giving them the reality dose. And she walked with Jesus to his end. And still kept prophesizing. No, not prophesizing, but still giving knowledge after he was deceased. And word on the street is she was carrying his child. This is where we have the Knights Templar. It's another story. It's another story. I've been watching too much History Channel with Dad. It's too much going on. But question why that's such a big thing. Oh, we got to find the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is the woman, the cup, the chalice. If you look at a woman's womb, looks just like this. So they were really protecting Mary and Jesus's offspring, or Yeshua's offspring. It sounds like modern day COINTELPRO. No more Black messiahs. Right? That's what that sounds like. They even did that before Yeshua was being born, right? The Romans was looking out for the Messiah. There's always a Messiah coming through. And it's not somebody that is out here the prophets and things like that. It's passing the knowledge through and on and enlightening people. And that's a problem when you start wakening people up and enlightening them. Because they're like, wait a minute, the government, the Roman Empire is telling us this, that, and the third. We're giving our taxes. Ooh, what did Yeshua do? You're not going to be doing taxes on the Sabbath. Flipped up the boards and all that stuff. I mean, y'all know this. So taxes has been the name of the game for a very long time. That's why, again, I questioned, is Kyrie Irving doing this for tax purposes and write-offs? Because even in scripture, tax collectors was a big thing. Okay. All right, y'all. So that's it. I'm done. That's all. Because we'll be getting in here with a whole nother hour of the good old book and what's in store. And we know that the book is allegories and stories, and it's everything and then some. So is your Torah, so is your Quran. They're all pretty much the same thing, saying similar things about same person, different name, right? But these things, since humanity, since people were becoming capitalizing off one another and gaining riches and just always scamming off the next one, it's always been like that. It's nothing, really nothing new under the sun. It's always been, the rich have always been trying to put their foot on the poor's neck, strong arm them, because they are in power, they have the money, and they can do this. The poor will sit there and go along with the okie doke because they don't have the money to finagle it. But this has been going on for a very long time. So we just gotta, like Brother Maybach said, question everything. Try not to take everything on face value. I'm trying not to. I have to relearn the things that I'm learning now, because I'm like, what? A lot of stuff is just making me like, I don't even know what to believe anymore. I don't even know the stuff that I was taught was really, you know what I mean? Like, that's the rabbit hole that you start going down. Like, really? Is that really real? Like, I don't even know what to think anymore. So salute to everybody coming through again. Salute to everybody in the replay. Thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Wednesday, I will be on my other channel, Foxy Moon Premieres, and doing the midweek check-in. We also have a full moon that's coming up on Tuesday. We're also in an alignment with Jupiter and Venus right now. So we have some auspicious planetary alignments that are happening. We just also had a triple X or double X solar flare that happened yesterday and yesterday and the day before. So our sun has been emulting flames and causing all types of stuff going on in the earth, right? And so a lot of stuff plays into the way we move. Some of us, if you're in tune with the planets and the sun and things like that, you're going to feel a certain kind of way in your body. That just means that you're really tapped into, the celestial planets. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk about that on Wednesday. I may do some in-between card readings. Also, if you're interested in getting a personal reading, you can go to my other channel, Foxy Moon Premieres, and hit the link in the About section, and you can book a reading with me there. They're tarot readings. For those that don't know, y'all pretty much know that I'm a tarot reader. I read cards. And again, if you're interested in getting a personal reading, you just go to my website and book there. The calendar is open. So that's www.foxymoonspiritualalchemist with an s.com. But anyway, you can go to my other channel and hit the about the link there. I think I will add this on to this channel as well. I forgot to do it on here. But anyway, yeah, so that's what's happening so far. And that's it. I may just, post up from time to time, but please make sure to hit the notification bell so that you are aware. I will send out reminders in your, if you are, we're Instagram friends, I'll send out a link to you guys. But if not, just hit the notification bell, right? So you will be notified when I do go on. I haven't gone on in a while, so don't worry about your bell going off all the time because I'm not going on all the time. But do hit that so you know when to come through for the lives. And with that all being said, I bid you all adieu.